what a year it has been. Let's just say that. 2023, I think, was honestly one of the best years of my entire life. However, it was also one of the most trying and also most challenging years I think I've ever had. And I definitely learned a lot of lessons along the way. And so we're gonna go through my biggest realizations / my biggest lessons that I learned in 2023. And while we do that, we're also gonna do some makeup and get ready for the day. This has been one of my most requested videos. You guys really wanna know how I do my everyday makeup. So as we're walking through this, I am going to put all the products that I'm using on the screen. So that way, if you guys want to do what I do, you'll know exactly how to do it. And yes, we've got our Ziva in a wine glass because we romanticize the shit out of our lives around here. And I got a lot to dive into. I got a lot, really big topics to kind of talk about. So let's get into it. God, where do I even begin? I don't even know where to start with this. I guess the first one that I want to talk about is how your past is an explanation and never an excuse. And kind of what I mean by that is I endured a lot of traumatic things as a child. I've actually never really talked about it on any of my social media platforms before, I think ever. However, I always kind of just grew up thinking that I was a very strong person, and although I had gone through a lot of traumatic things as a child, and even just in some of the past relationships I've had, I always just thought I was fine. Like, it never really fazed me, or so I thought. I just never really had like an emotional response to the things that I had gone through. And like, although I had gone through so many things, I was just like, I'm fine. And as I got older and entering into the beginning of this year, I started to realize that a lot of the behaviors and things I was starting to notice about myself, I just didn't like. And I just started noticing that, especially when I would drink, a lot of things were starting to come up for me. And so I decided to go to therapy at the beginning of this year, and best decision of my life. It completely changed my life and really broke down a lot of things for me, and I started to just have a lot of realizations. And I think that was a really big pivotal point for me in my life, because it was actually allowing me to face the things that I had gone through and accept it, and also helped me become a lot more responsible for the way that I was showing up in my current life, if that makes sense. So I was able to kind of put an explanation to why I was acting certain ways, why I was accepting certain behaviors in relationships. And long story short, I just learned a lot about myself through therapy, and I was able to take a lot of self-responsibility that I hadn't taken before. And because of that, I found a lot of peace with my past. I was able to accept a lot of the things I had gone through, and I was actually able to start moving forward from it. And it was actually within therapy that I learned the second biggest lesson of the year for me, which was just because a relationship isn't toxic doesn't mean it's healthy. And I remember the very first time my therapist actually said that sentence to me, it hit me literally like a bus. Like, when she said that to me, I didn't even know how to respond. Like, I just remember being speechless, because I feel like it was explaining perfectly something that I was really struggling with. So I have had a history of some pretty tough and heavy relationships, very physically abusive, emotionally abusive, mentally abusive. And so I think, and also just a lot of the behaviors that I witnessed as a child with the people surrounding me, toxic, chaotic relationships is kind of just what I thought was normal. Also in therapy, I learned that when you grow up in chaotic environments where, you know, things are really good and then things are really bad, and there's always that constant like high and low, that's kind of what you start to perceive as normal, especially in relationships. That's what you see as normal. And even though it doesn't feel good, there's a sense of comfort in normal behavior. So going into relationships as I got older, I would still try and seek out these crazy high, crazy low relationships, because that is kind of what I took as normal. That's what I thought love was like. And even though it didn't feel good being in relationships like that, I just accepted it subconsciously. So at this point, I was in a relationship where I wasn't really necessarily the happiest, but there wasn't anything wrong. Like, there wasn't anything like bad that was happening. There was nothing crazy, toxic that was making me feel this way. And so I kind of felt a little bit of guilt in this relationship, and almost I felt like, because, you know, this person's not doing something that's super hurtful to me, like I should love this person, I should be happy in this relationship. But I wasn't happy in this relationship, and there was a lot of things in the relationship where I wasn't being heard, and that person just wasn't living up to the expectations that I had for myself in relationships. Okay, I'm back. I had to put my eyebrows on. I cannot multitask with that, okay? Trying to do your eyebrows is fucking hard, let alone trying to talk at the same time. Girl, I cannot do that. So back to what I was saying, lesson number 3 is that it is no one's responsibility to live up to your expectations. It is your responsibility to walk away if who someone is and how they show up isn't someone or in a way that you align with. And this one honestly took a lot of self-responsibility because I was constantly finding myself in this cycle of like getting so upset and, you know, questioning, why won't this person treat me the way that I want? You know, this person should be doing this and that for me. But it was not that person's job to live up to an expectation that I had. If I wasn't happy, I needed to walk away. It was my responsibility to be like, hey, this isn't what I'm looking for and I just don't think it's gonna work out, versus trying to force somebody into changing or trying to morph them into someone that I want them to be. Because, you know, at the end of the day, trying to change someone, it doesn't benefit either person ever. And so all you can do is, you know, show up and, you know, have your standards set. And if that person doesn't live up to the standard that you have, if they don't have the same relationship values as you, then that is on you to walk away versus trying to force somebody to fit a mold that you have. And leading us into lesson number 5, the most important relationship you will have is the relationship that you keep with yourself. This one took me way too long to learn. I used to be that person who constantly needed to be in a relationship, needed to be surrounded by other people, and I almost just had this like fear and dislike of being alone. I hated being alone. I didn't want to be without the company of other people. And what I kind of came to realize was that the reason I hated being alone was because in being alone, it really it forced me to focus on all the things that I needed to work on and the inner work that I needed to do. And before, I had just never been in a place where I was kind of ready to deal with that. So instead, I wanted to distract myself with other people and things to keep me busy so that I didn't have to do that. But as I mentioned above, that coping mechanism did not take me very far. And so I had to learn how to have a good relationship with myself. And I spent this entire past year pretty much just mending that relationship with myself, getting to learn who I was, dating myself essentially, and love myself in the same way that I would pour love into other relationships that I had. And this one was tough because in the beginning, you know, it's very tempting to just want to find a distraction and not have to deal with what you're going through. But especially as I was coming out of my relationship at the time, I knew that I wanted to go about things in a different way, in a healthier way, in a way that was going to actually help me grow and move forward and make progress in who I was and what I wanted to become. And so there was like a good solid like 2 months that I literally just kept my phone on do not disturb, and like I wasn't talking to anyone. I waited until like I was 110% over my past relationship before I even thought about, you know, seeing another guy. And I really just took my time with it, allowed myself to be alone, and reflected a lot on my past relationship and the things that I needed to work on and the things inside of me that weren't necessarily contributing to my growth and were actually holding me back so that I could work on it. And just working on really becoming the best possible version of myself for no one other than myself. And this is actually a good way to move into lesson number 6, which was a lesson that deep-rooted, real confidence does not come from superficial things like putting on makeup and buying new clothes. Like that adds to like temporary confidence. It makes you feel good temporarily, but real, true confidence, deep-rooted confidence comes from the relationship that you have with yourself, the reputation that you keep within yourself. It's being able to know inside and out that you are the shit regardless of what anyone else may think or what anyone else may say, and having such a strong concept of self that someone could say the most hurtful thing to you and it would just not even faze you because you know deep down who you are and what you bring to the table. And all of that stems from the way that you show up for yourself, the way that you treat yourself, and treating your relationship that you have with yourself the exact same way that you would a relationship with someone else. And one thing that I say to my clients to kind of help them get a better understanding of this is saying, imagine you were dating a partner who never made time for you, okay? They were always telling you that they were going to go on dates with you. And then when time to spend with you came around, they kind of pushed it off to the side. They would let time with other people come in front of that. Also, if you're dating a partner who's constantly talking down on you, on the way that you look, on just who you are as a person, you know, they're calling you mean names, how do you think you would feel in that relationship? You would probably feel super insecure. You wouldn't think that that person genuinely loves you. You wouldn't trust that person because they're so flaky on their plans. And the same thing can be said about the relationship that we have with ourselves. If you aren't following through on the promises you make to yourself, maybe you tell yourself that this is the time you're finally gonna get healthy, start going to the gym, and then you make plans to go to the gym and you don't show up. You hit snooze on your alarm and you just go back to bed. You do that over and over again. Or if you are constantly talking down on yourself, telling yourself that you look ugly, treating yourself in a way that doesn't make you feel good, it's like no wonder you feel insecure. No wonder you struggle with confidence, because deep down, you know that you don't even have your own back. Deep down, you know you don't even genuinely love yourself. So you need to start pouring that same love that you would into others into yourself, so that way you can feel as confident as possible. It all comes down to integrity and how strong you are on your word with yourself. These next two ones I'm going to talk about were more so like realizations rather than lessons. So I guess the first really big realization that I had was sometimes shit needs to fall apart in order for better things to fall into place. Things may not always make sense in the moment, and in the moment we may be so zoomed in on what's happening in front of us that we don't really see the bigger picture that's coming into play. But what I want you to do is like stop and look back on all the things in your life that didn't work out, all the relationships that didn't work out, all the opportunities that fell through. If those things had worked out, you wouldn't be where you are today. And every single thing that happens in your life is not an accident. All happens for a reason. I failed out of university, and I remember in the moment feeling so lost and sad, and it was one of the hardest days of my entire life. But you wanna know what? If I didn't fail out of university and I stayed at VIU and I finished the dental hygiene program, I'd be working as a dental hygienist. I wouldn't be here doing what I do today, helping change women's lives through fitness and nutrition, not living out my true life's purpose. Like the work that I do is so fulfilling to me, and I know that this is what I was meant to do. This is why I was put on this earth, is to help women on the scale that I am. And I'm so fucking grateful every day that I did fail out of university and that didn't work out for me, because then I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing such a fulfilling job. I wouldn't be living out my life's purpose. And that's so scary to think that I totally could have missed out on that opportunity. And it's just a perfect example that sometimes things need to fall apart in order for better things to fall into place. So if something doesn't work out, if things don't go the way that you want, it's just trusting that there is a bigger plan at play and there is better and bigger things out there for you. It's just having faith and believing in yourself and believing that everything is happening for the greater good. And this one ties in perfectly to my next realization, which is actually a quote that my mindset coach told me. I had a mindset coach at the beginning of this year. She's amazing. Zaria, I'm going to give her a little shout out on here because she truly helped me change my life and my mindset. One of the quotes that she said to me was, "What's meant for me will never pass me." And I'm not lying when I tell you that this quote was the only thing that kind of helped bring me peace in the beginning of my breakup, and truly just made me feel a lot better about the situation. It just let me kind of like, I feel like in the beginning of my relationship, I felt this sense of wanting to try to control the outcome, and hearing this quote, it just kind of allowed me to like step back and just trust the process of things, and trusting that no matter what was going to happen, it was all going to work out for me in the way that it was meant to work out for me. And basically what this quote means is that it doesn't matter. You could do the most crazy, cringy shit. You could do anything possible to potentially fuck up something or to potentially fuck up something in your life. But if someone is truly meant for you, it will never pass you. It will always find a way to come back to you at some point sooner or later. And so nothing in your life is really ever like a loss, because if that thing was truly meant for you, it would be with you, it would stay with you, it would still find its way back around some way or another. And I just love that saying, and it's something that I live by, and I remind myself daily, especially when things maybe don't go necessarily in the way that I want them to go. I just remind myself, if it's meant for me, it'll never pass me. And if it goes on and moves forward, and if this thing doesn't work out, if who I'm seeing doesn't work out, that just wasn't meant for me. And there's bigger and better things on their way to me, which is exciting. And the last lesson I learned was that life is too short to not romanticize the shit out of every single thing in your life. Life is truly what you make it. Shout out Hannah Montana. I mean, you were right with that one. Life is truly what you make it. If you sit and you focus on all the bad and you let things in your life be boring, you let things in your life be bad, shit's gonna be bad. It's not gonna be fun. However, there's always a way for you to look for the good. There's always a way for you to make light of a situation, and it truly is a choice. People who are living these really bright, happy, thriving lifestyles, they're choosing to live a bright, happy, thriving lifestyle. It's simply just a matter of like finding a way to romanticize any single thing in your life. For example, me, I drink any single fucking beverage I have out of a wine glass. Why? Because it makes me feel bougie, it makes me feel like a bad bitch, it makes me feel good. And something that I actually did was I wrote a list of all the things that make me feel. I actually wrote out a list in my journal of all the things that make me feel good, all the things that make me feel like I'm living my best life. When I think back to the moments where I'm my happiest, most confident, what am I doing in those moments? I made an entire list of that. So that way, if I ever find myself feeling really blah about life or just really down on myself, I can look at that list and essentially just start doing things that make me feel like I'm living my best life again. Go shopping at the nicest grocery stores, eat out at your favorite restaurant, light a candle, pour a drink in a fancy wine glass, and just have a cute dinner with yourself, journal, watch the sunset, pack yourself a little picnic, go to the beach. Like, find any way you can to romanticize the life that you're living, and I guarantee you, life will feel 10 times better. But it's a choice. People who are living these amazing lives and you look and they're so happy, they're not just doing that because they're lucky. Like, it's not just happening for them. They're choosing to make the good, choosing to make the best of every single situation that they're given. Like I said, 2023 was a year for growth. I learned a lot of really important lessons. I had a lot of really big realizations, and honestly, it just has me so excited for what's to come in 2024. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. This was the final look, my everyday makeup. So with that, I'm gonna let you guys go, and I will see you guys back here next week.